What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Renegade Animation on the Renegade Pop Culture Podcast Network. My name is Mike. I'll be your host for this evening, and joining me as always is my co-captain, Cameron.
Howdy, howdy.
And boy, we've got a fun show for you tonight, as we do pretty much every week. But this week we are covering a few films from the New York International Children's Film Festival. And just as an aside, I hope every film festival moving forward, COVID or not, continues going down the virtual path, because this has been probably the best way to get exposed to a lot more international movies. But more on that later. For now, we've got some news to cover. So, Cam, what do you got?
Well, we got a light or a pseudo light news lineup to talk about. Unfortunately, we have to start with a animation studio shutting down. Ver Animation Studio, a Moscow-based studio behind Ginger's Tale, which played at the Annecy 2020 online event, closed, and there's no real reason behind it. Though a lot of assumptions are going around that it did not do very well at the box office in Russia, and that's about it. And then, of course, it's also like the changing landscapes of how hard it is to find 2D animators. And of course, we're in a pandemic still. So if your film doesn't do well and you're in dire need of a hit, well, the pandemic isn't going to make that easier. But also, Ginger's Tale was not all that great. It was a super boring movie to watch. And it's a shame because the 2D animation was actually not that bad. And it had a cool approach to the theme of greed. But then it was just like, it just wasn't that good. So I'm sorry. Hopefully the animators find some like footing and work at other studios and such.
Yeah, that's a real shame. I never got to see Ginger's Tale, but it looked okay from just based off that trailer.
Yeah, no, it's always cool to see 2D animation from other countries, and Russia has a very bountiful animation scene, and it's just a shame when a studio gets shut down because it's just one less in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to stop saying we haven't heard anything about certain movies, because anytime I do say that, a trailer pops up the next few days after we record these episodes, because we finally have our first look at Spirit Untamed, the somewhat maybe connected movie to the Netflix TV series that's based off of the really good 2000s animated feature.
Yeah, this movie's weird.
So, yeah. Well, let's start with the cast. They announced that Isabella Merced, sorry, Julianne Moore, Jake Gyllenhaal, Marcy Martin, McKenna Grace, Andre Brower, Walton Goggins, and Isa Gonzalez are part of the cast. It will be directed by Elaine Bogan, who worked on Troll Hunters, Tales of Arcadia, and will be produced by Karen Foster, who co-produced How to Train Your Dragon. And it's co-directed by Ennio Torres-san, who is the head of story for The Boss Baby. And Amy Dodery is behind the music. So there's a few things to keep in note of. It might be based off of the TV series, but considering the tone of the movie trailer or the preview that we saw, it doesn't look like it's connected to the show. Just it's like it's superficially connected to the show. 2, this is being done by an outside studio, kind of like what DreamWorks did with Captain Underpants. And I don't know. Like, it looks fine. I don't know. It looks like a higher end direct to video film, or a film that should have probably stayed on Netflix.
Yeah, wait, I'm confused. Is this are they trying to release this theatrically?
Oh yeah, no, that they're aiming for a June 4th release through Universal Pictures.
Yeah, okay, good luck with that.
Like, I mean, I don't know. I don't hear as many people talk about the shows. It might be harmless or solid or whatever. It's just it's weird. I don't know. Any thoughts?
Um, I let me just apologize to the audience for us struggling to come up with words for this because this franchise is kind of weird. So the original film Stallion of Cimarron came out in 2002 and wasn't really a box office smash. So um, so the series that was on Netflix, Spirit Riding Free, that came out like 14 years later, and it just kind of snuck into Netflix because for the longest time Netflix and DreamWorks had like a multi-year deal. So it just kind of became one of those shows that was just guaranteed like 10 seasons. So it was on neither one of our radar until this movie was announced. So forgive us if we don't have the most informed opinion about all of this.
No, and it could just be something that we might not tackle because it's out of our rank area of interest. And considering how many seasons are there, Mike?
10 according to Wikipedia.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot to commit to with just this one movie. So if we do cover it, and if it's somehow in theaters, we'll probably wait until it hits on demand if it piques our curiosity enough. But yeah, let's just move on. Hopefully it's good. Well, let's just say that.
Yeah.
So, Kanto, a fantasy comic, is getting an animated feature with Jada Pinkett and Will Smith's Westbrook Studios. And it's so the comic, is based on a 6-issue arc, and it was apparently renewed like recently by IDW Publishing, and not much else. So let's see here. Right. So the writer David M. Boer will be writing the screenplay, and Drew Zucker will also be an executive producer alongside him. It looks interesting. I've never heard of this comic book series, though. I'm so out of the loop of what's new with comics and such.
Yeah, I haven't heard of this one either, but the fact that Will and Jada Smith are behind this means you're gonna get some top-notch talent attached, either to write, direct, or star in this. And I'm really curious to see who gets attached to this moving forward.
Yeah, no, we'll have to see if it's also like 2D or CGI, or like where they exactly want to distribute this film. So, good news and bad news. Good news, we got our first look at Infinity Train Book 4.
Yay!
Bad news, it's the final season.
Aww.
So, yeah, so let's see here. In book 4, Ryan and Minji are forced to put their music aspirations on hold as they board the train at the same time and receive the exact same number, exploring the train's inner puzzles in order to solve its mysteries and return home. The two old friends also find their relationship put to the test. Now, Owen Dennis talked about this, and he did talk about some of the casting for it, and one of those is that Johnny Young Bosch is playing one of the brothers, and that sounds good to me. So
yeah, I like the casting of this, and one thing that's interesting. Now, who knows in the season itself, like we could discover like more of their backstory, but just based off this trailer, this is one of the first times where we're getting introduced to like pretty much totally brand new characters. Because a pattern I've noticed in previous seasons is we'll meet the protagonists for the next book in like the 7th episode of the season. Like in book 1, we met the mirror tulip in the 7th episode where they enter like the mirror car. And then in book 2, we meet Simon and Grace at the carnival. So
And then
I
book
don't
3.
yeah, I don't remember meeting these two in book 3.
I think they just had to cut that tradition out because we don't see them in book 3, or at least from what I remember, we don't see them. And just a heads up for the rest of the casting: Sakai Murashige is playing Ryan, and then we got I assume that little Bell thing, Kez, is played by Minty Lewis. And yeah, so unfortunately, we will probably not find out what happened to the false conductor and that little glitch girl. And oh, that's unfortunate because there are, I don't know. I guess I would have liked to have at least seen 2 more seasons just so you can use one of them to wrap up that storyline and then introduce the brothers, and then the brothers take up the final season. But I don't know. It's weird because Infinity Train's an anthology series for the most part. And
Yeah, for the most part. By the way, one thing that we should note is at least according to Wikipedia, so this season premieres on April 15th, and it looks like we're getting all 10 episodes at once.
oh yeah, no, Owen Dennis confirmed we're getting all 10 episodes.
As opposed to how they rolled out book 3, which was the first 5, and then each week we got like 1 episode.
Ugh, hate when I did that. Still do, and I'm wondering if that still hurt them. And I'm sure the AT&T murder merger is still kind of involved with why this is only getting 1 more season.
Oh, that has to be the reason.
Because they also canceled the 12-ounce mouse season, and the creator said himself, "Oh, it's just new people in charge," and that's never a good sign. So you can try to attack Cartoon Network for some dumb reason, but I'd rather you go after AT&T and the people up there who made this decision. So, because don't blame it on Owen Dennis. Don't blame it on him or his team, because that's just stupid. You're attacking the wrong person. So let's talk about some HBO Max news.
Speaking of AT&T,
yeah,
for better or for worse.
Yeah, for better or for worse. The roller derby graphic novel Slam is getting adapted into a TV series for HBO Max, and part of it will be produced by Rooster Teeth Studios. Got mixed feelings about that, but in general, so Slam is an adult animated half-hour series set in a fast-paced, hard-hitting, super cheeky, all-female world of banked track roller derby, following 2 young women who will have to decide if their budding friendship is stronger than the pull of a team when a win is on the line. The series will be brought to life using a groundbreaking combination of rotoscope and 3D animation to take viewers into the sport in a way never visualized on screen before.
I understand your reservation for Rooster Teeth, but just imagining the combination of like rotoscoping and 3D animation, and like I'm imagining like it having a little bit more of like a comic book aesthetic, sort of like Into the Spider-Verse, and honestly, I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, no, I am assuming they're going to try to do like a Spider-Verse kind of approach. What worries me is the motion capture, because we've seen what happens when studios try to use motion capture and have no idea what they're doing. X-Arm. And motion capture is such a tricky thing because you can't just rely on it, and you need animators to work the animated elements throughout the motion capture, which is why like Dorohedoro and Beastars look so good, because they knew what they were doing with the CGI and whatnot. But no, this one sounds good. HBO Max is putting up some really interesting projects, and I just hope the merger from AT&T does not kill any of them. So we also got our first sneak peek at the upcoming Yasuke anime from LaShawn Thomas, the creator of Netflix's Cannon Busters anime. And the anime will premiere April 29th. And of course, this will star Lakeith Stanfield, who was also in the recent Judas and the Black Messiah, which is really good, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
And we got some photos, and this will, of course, will be animated by Studio Mappa. And this was apparently done a year or so ago, so no worries about like, oh man, their Mappa's getting too busy for its own good. No, they're fine. They're fine. I'm looking forward to this. It looks great, and I'm down for whatever Netflix is doing. Even if this doesn't fully work, this 6-episode series, it's going to be a lot more interesting than most anime released.
Yeah. I need to see a trailer soon, mostly because I want to hear. I don't think Lakeith Stanfield has done much voice acting, so I'm really curious to see how he does in this series.
He did a little in BoJack Horseman, but that's about it from what I remember. And let's just say I might be able to watch this early. I can't say much else. So the voice cast for the Lost Ollie limited series has been announced, and we have Jonathan Groff, Mary J. Blige, Tim Blake Nelson, Gina Rodriguez, Jake Johnson, and Kessler Talbot. They'll be in this 4-episode, 45-minute live-action CGI animation project from Shannon Tyndall, who worked on Kubo and the Two Strings and Coraline, Peter Ramsey, who, of course, Rise of the Guardians and Into the Spider-Verse, and will be produced by Sean Levy's 21 Labs Entertainment. And boy, that's a great cast.
Yeah, this is pretty stacked.
So so from Animation Magazine, they have a rundown of who's going to play who. So Jonathan Groff is going to voice Ollie, the handmade toy rabbit. Mary J. Blige is going to play Rosie, a raggedy teddy bear stitched together from other toys. That's going to be an interesting visual to see. Tim Blake Nelson is going to play Zozo, a clown doll who is an old toy and an even older soul. I love Tim Blake Nelson. Gina Rodriguez is going to play Mama. I'm assuming okay, so it looks like Gina Rodriguez, Jake Johnson, and Kessler Talbot are going to play like the human characters, like the live action elements. That's cool. I can't wait to see what this looks like.
Yeah. Is there a release date for this?
I did not see one. Let me quickly just see. No, not one yet.
Okay.
So we'll have to see. They say it's upcoming, but when they say upcoming, who knows what that means?
Yeah, what's gonna happen is they'll announce like the release date in July, and and it'll be like set in August.
Oh gosh. So Central Park, the Apple Plus series, got renewed for season 3 ahead of its season 2 premiere. Unfortunately, we did not cover this one last year. I think we were kind of assuming with the whole recasting of the one character from who was voiced by Christian Bell, was going to happen, and I just kept pushing it off and off. But we'll cover it when we cover season 2. So
yeah, I think that's fair. Like the fact that it's getting a 3rd season means 2 things. One, that Apple TV really likes working with Bento Box on this project, and 2, that people really like it. So I'm pretty sure this might go for a long time.
We'll have to see, because this is made by some of the same people who made Bob's Burgers, and Bob's Burgers is of course very popular. And then there's that other animated show that is new for this year. I forgot what it's called, but it's
the Great North.
Yeah, The Great North with Nick Offerman. And so we'll have to see how this goes. The first 3 episodes of season 2 will be dropping June 25th, and it'll be a weekly release.
Oh, by the way, we are currently in Bob's Burgers 11th season.
Whew, golly, good job for that show. I still remember enjoying it. That's a lot to try to catch up on. So the Croods 2 writers, Kevin and Dan Hodgman, are inking an overall deal with CBS Studios, and they will produce television content for the studio. And I'm sure. They are the executive producers and showrunners for the upcoming Star Trek Prodigy TV
Nice.
series. So, and they're also writing a film sequel to Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which that was a freaking scary movie for a family audience. Like, man. And they're also working on the live action adaptation of the Dragon Slayer movie starring Ryan Reynolds. Still don't know how that one's going to work, but
We'll just have to wait and see for that. But
yeah.
I really like the work that these two have done so far.
Yeah. So Sony Pictures Animation is making, they're basically saying like, I'm going to be the studio that y'all made fun of, but I'm the only one in the main scene that's going to push for more diverse animation and stories, because they have a new movie coming out in the future called what is it called? K-pop Demon Hunters, and it will be directed by Maggie Kang. Sorry, and Chris Appelhans or Appelhans. Sorry if I get those last names incorrect. Kang's credit includes the Lego Ninjago movie, and so this is what Variety has to say. Is mounting the project as a homage to her Korean pride in the wildly popular K-pop music she grew up with. The movie is described as an action adventure that follows a world-renowned girl group as they balance their lives in the spotlight with their secret identities as demon hunters. They'll be set against a colorful backdrop of fashion, food, style, and music. And Appelhans is the guy behind Wish Dragon. And Aaron Warner of Shrek is going to be producing. Hannah McMahon and Danya Jimenez. And let's see, Monica Hanya are writing the script. And yeah, no, this sounds great.
when I saw this article and read like that little synopsis, I knew immediately that I needed to see this like yesterday. This I may not be the biggest K-pop aficionado, but the premise of combining that with demon hunting sounds too bizarre to not want to see immediately.
On the teaser image, and if that's what the film's going to look like with some wildly stylish CGI animation,
yes, please.
Yeah, yes, please. Speaking of with animation and music, Mark Anthony and his studio, Magnus Studios, are teaming up to be executive producing and being a musical producer for a film called Coady, which I haven't heard about this movie in ages because it got notoriety because it's starring and being executive produced by Sofia Vergara, and it'll be produced by Upstairs Animation, and that just sounds cool. And so it's like Coady follows three unlikely heroes: Nachi, a free-spirited Cody; Zochi, a fearless monarch butterfly; and Paco, a hyperactive glass frog, as they embark on an adventure to stop a wicked coral snake, Zaina, voiced by Sophia herself, from destroying their homeland and friends. I haven't listened to Mark Anthony in years. That's just a name. It's like, now there's a name I haven't heard of in years.
I was gonna say the last time that Mark Anthony was, relevant, to be honest, was like the early 2000s.
Yeah, no, I think I had one of his songs on one of those Now CDs.
Same. It must have been like Now 4 or 5.
I think it was 4 because I remember that one being my favorite. So let's talk about the most controversial bit of animation news of this week: the first look at the Paw Patrol movie. Oh, I'm trying to hide the fact that we're going to talk about something a little more loaded soon. So the Kids' Choice Awards showed off the first look for the Paw Patrol film, and it looks fine.
I don't really have anything else to add.
No, it's it looks like it's going to be better than. I mean, of course, when you're putting a TV show onto the big screen, you have to actually spend the money on it to make it look good. But it looks like maybe a direct to video kind of CGI film, like not like an early one, but like one of the later ones that come out now. And from what it looks like, it seems like the Paw Patrol character, like the animals, are going to be voiced by kids, and then the celebrities are going to be kind of sprinkled throughout. And there's not much else. I don't think we're really going to cover this unless there is just something about this that we have to talk about. So I guess let's move on to the actual controversy, unless you have anything else to say.
No, let's move on to the actual controversy.
Let's talk about the cut Pepe Le Pew scene for the Space Jam sequel. So recently, it's been confirmed, along with the whole controversy about Lola Bunny. They heated debate of, well, I say heated debate. What because of just the notorious comedy that angle that Pepe had going for him in his old shorts. There was apparently a scene where LeBron James was basically saying, "Don't touch another tune without their consent," and they cut that scene out. And there's been a whole debate about whether this was a good idea or not. Because on one hand, I understand why people would find Pepe Le Pew kind of a hard character to swallow, just because of his antics in the old shorts. Even though he was the butt of the joke for a lot of it, because he was the one getting punished for being a creep. But I get why his humor might not age well.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. And something else we should kind of point out is that in 2016, Max Landis was attached to a Pepe Le Pew film for Warner Brothers, and if you know anything about Landis, that's a big red flag.
Yeah, oosh, that's a whole other hot bag of potatoes.
But the other thing about Pepe Le Pew, which has always been kind of fascinating, is that like the whole metaphor behind his character is he's a skunk who can't smell his own stench. It like in other words, in a lot of those classic shorts, they may be viewed with a more critical eye today, because a lot of the times, like, he just cannot take no for an answer. Thankfully, I like Chuck Jones and the team behind those shorts are a lot smarter, and they understand that he's always going to be the butt of the joke. But I understand that for a more modern audience, that character would come off as less acceptable.
So, but here's what the scene was described as. Pepe was set to appear in a black and white Casablanca style, like Rick's Cafe sequence. Pepe, playing a bartender, starts hitting on a woman at the bar, played by Gertie Santo. He begins kissing her arm while she pulls back, then slamming Pepe into the chair next to hers. She then pours her drink on Pepe and slaps him hard, sending him spinning in a stool, which is then stopped by LeBron James's hand. James and Bugs Bunny are looking for Lola, and Pepe knows her whereabouts. Pepe then tells the guys that Penelope Cat has filed a restraining order against him, I guess, finally. James makes a remark in the script that Pepe can't grab other tunes without their consent. And Grace Santo has also talked about the cut of the scene getting cut, and was against it. Because she's also a survivor of this kind of she was a survivor of this kind of situation of sexual harassment and spoken out against it. And there's definitely a lot more to talk about with this topic.
So just to be clear, she was against them cutting the scene?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still kind of on the fence about it, but hearing her perspective kind of helps me lean more towards I would have preferred to see the scene, unless it was cut for other reasons, like maybe maybe the scene didn't flow as well in the finished in the finished cut of the film. Maybe maybe it just didn't test well with audiences. There has to be more than one reason, and probably only one of those reasons is actually altruistic, while the other is more, I guess, for lack of a better term, a more mechanical reason for the scene being cut.
No, we'll just have to see if they actually give us a scene or like give us a reason for why it was cut, like an actual reason instead of just saying, just like not saying anything because that's kind of interesting to hear. Well, it's not kind of, it is interesting to hear that she was actually for the scene since it was all about putting Pepe in his place. And that's all. And Pepe's always been, I think, one of the ones who Looney Tune characters who's harder to adapt for a modern audience.
Oh,
Um,
yeah,
because there
that's
was
putting
that
it lightly.
because after the Looney Tunes show from the 2010s, there was that other spinoff that came up, and he was like a secret agent, I think, from what I remember. So it just, I'm mixed. I get why they cut it, but I also feel like there's a good reason to talk about, like, to show scenes like that, to be like, hey, let's actually nip this in the bud and tell them that consent is everything. Consent is important. Because as far as I can tell, this is a lot more interesting to talk about than the stupid Lola Bunny thing. And I know I kind of dismissively try to avoid talking about it, but it's like when everyone realized that the photos, that side by side comparison game shown around on Twitter was a fan picture and not from the actual movie, it's like, I don't know what it is about the Looney Tunes getting stuck in controversies, but it's getting a little tiring, even though this is only the second time.
And the other thing about Lola Bunny, which makes the controversy even less like non-traversal, is that this isn't even her first redesign. Like the character has been like revamped a couple times as a baby in Baby Looney Tunes, but most notably with the Looney Tunes show back in 2011 when
Christian Wig.
when Kristen Wiig gave us the best interpretation of this character.
Yeah, and it's like I've seen people defend Lola Bunny from the film, and not just because, oh, she was hot and whatever. No, I saw a much more interesting discussion about just the words from Malcolm D. Lee saying like, oh, she was deemed too sexy, so we wanted to make her strong and powerful. And it's like
But she was
Lola was like the best player in the movie. So are you saying that a woman can't both be strong and sexy? Because you can. And again, and I said this back in the winter 2021 anime thing. People don't hate sexiness or just like sexy characters. They hate it when it's just there for the sake of it, or that's just their one defined trait. So I don't know. That response kind of bugged me just because it's like it sounds very limiting to who Lola could be as a character. And it's like, she can't be attractive. She has to be strong, and that's it. And it's like, you can make them both. I don't know.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say about Lola Bunny is, sure, character design does matter, but what matters more is the brain you put in the character.
Yeah. And it's just some of these animation controversies are so dumb when they should be focusing on stuff like anime studios in Japan. They have horrible working conditions, and there should be more of a push to make sure they get better working benefits and conditions so they aren't burning out, and you know important things, not, oh, this bunny's not hot anymore. Oh gosh, such a train wreck of a discussion. But that's all the news that we have. Now, before we get started with our three films, I'm going to ask you a question, Mike.
All right.
Since we've started this podcast, I've been introducing you to foreign animation, old and new. You've been able to have more access to it due to a lot of the festivals being more like doing the whole virtual theater kind of situation. You were able to see films that normally you wouldn't be able to otherwise. So after a year or so of, because now it's Renegade Animation has is now a year old. What's been your take and giveaway, or your takeaway from being able to dive into more of the stuff that I like to cover?
Well, I'll say that getting to watch more films from outside of the US has really helped me appreciate the medium more. Like I feel like I have a more enriched opinion on animation now that I've got a taste of um films from other parts of the world. um and while I'm not a fan of like dragging studios down to lift another up, I also have to be honest, a lot of the foreign animated films that I've been watching are miles ahead of most American productions. But that's because they take a little bit more of an artisan approach to the medium. Now I know in Japan, we talk about the like poor work conditions of like Japan's animation scene, but um, other places around the world, like in France, in Italy, Russia, even, um, or Brazil, it seems like animation still has a more creative focus, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, the thing that I've loved about foreign animation, I kind of talk about this in my Bombay review, which the director commented on my review for it and loved it. And I guess I'm going to carry this bit of ego with me because she said I understood the entire movie and its themes. So,
Nice.
yeah. Um that there's a lot more going on with foreign animation, and not that there aren't any bad film. Like, don't like because just because that I say I love and kind of prefer what's going on overseas compared to what happens in the US does not mean that there aren't, or there isn't a lot of bad stuff. If a movie can get made anywhere, then a bad movie can come from anywhere. So, but let's get started with the New York International Children's Film Festival. Let's start with our first film on the docket, Nahuel and the Magic Book.
All right, I'll start off with this one. So, the film follows Nahuel, a curious boy and the son of a fisherman who has a deep fear of the sea. One day, he stumbles upon a mystical book that seems to be the solution to all his troubles. They call it the Levisterio. Um, but little does he know, this book catches the attention of an evil sorcerer named Kalku, and pretty much the rest of the movie is about Nahuel and his motley crew, um, trying to stop Kalku from, I don't know, taking over the world or something.
What else do you do with a magic book? Um,
Exactly.
I mean, I use mine to prop up the coffee table. So, bad jokes aside. So, for context, I saw this way back at Annecy 2020, and this is now my second time being able to see this film, which I'm assuming this film is going to maybe have a US release soon, since it got it. This is its official US premiere at this festival. What did you think overall about it, Mike?
Um, Overall, I really liked it. I didn't have expectations, so I can't say I was disappointed. I just think compared to the other two films that we're about to cover, I think it's a little bit more on the weaker side. I love the art direction. I described it in my quick thoughts as sort of a mix between like Miyazaki and like the designs for Hilda on Netflix.
Hmm.
I think the only thing that's kind of stopping me from giving this like my full like the full 5 out of 5, is that I just think it like the animation doesn't quite seem as cinematic, and it's not because it's 2D. It's because um it's because the movements aren't quite as smooth. There's something about it that just doesn't have it. It doesn't have um
It doesn't have the polish that
yeah,
you want
that's the word I
from.
was looking for. It's not as polished as other 2D films that I've seen recently.
Yeah, overall for me, I still really like this film. I gave it a 4 out of 5. I think those are the same things that's holding it back for me are it's mostly just the animation, just because it's not as fluid and it's a little simple. Not that that's ever a bad thing. I think it actually has a very substantial story, but I would argue that it's not anything deeper than a lot of other animated films I've seen aimed at families. So let's talk about like some of the good stuff first. For one, even though there was a pitch trailer for this film, I think the final product looks better, and I can understand why the director and his team chose this Hilda Steven Universe style art or Craig of the Creek art style. It moves a lot better than I think a lot of people like to give that style credit for.
I don't even remember what the original trailer looked like.
It didn't look like this. It was like a drastic change. And I mean, like a lot of people like to think that more detailed characters means better animation, but I've said this before, and I'm going to drill it in to every animation fan's head. More details means more work that needs to go into the animation. There's a reason why people like cartoons have such distinct and simplistic designs, because if your design is too busy, that's going to be a pain to animate. You can make it look as good as you want, but if it can't move well, that's a problem.
Yeah,
I
so that's why I like the character designs in this. They're simple, but like they're simple, but at least they move pretty decent.
Yeah, no, and I like a lot of the designs. I liked the female lead that Nahuel runs into. I like the big dog. I like the trickster, and I like our villain. And finally, we have a villain, an evil sorcerer villain, after going through Red Shoes and the Seven Dwarfs and Charming. That's actually threatening and intimidating, and actually has like a presence in
and
their
actually and
movie.
actually gets the job done.
Dig,
Well, kind
uh,
of.
yeah, kind of. But it's like it's so refreshing to see that, because it's so easy just to be like, it's an evil sorcerer. What else do you want? And it's like, I want character. And I happen to find like a lot of the side characters charming. I like that hermit that they run into, and I like the backstory behind the dog and the raven woman that they encounter. And while I don't think Nahuel and the female girl, the little girl, are,
Fresha.
yeah, Fresha, are the most interesting characters of the bunch, I did like them. I didn't like find them too annoying or anything, and at least Fresha seemed like she could hold her own instead of being the damsel in distress.
Yeah, I like them just fine. The relationship between Nahul and his father kind of reminds me of a lot of like the same reoccurring plot you see in the cartoon saloon
Oh
movies,
yeah, it's
where
Song of the Sea.
yeah, where basically like the dad is like I love you, but you can't do anything.
Yeah. No, the main emotional story arc is that Nahuel's mom died while giving birth to him, and the dad is still kind of holding on to the regret and the angst that comes with a very traumatic incident. And not and like the whole theme and commentary of Nahuel is for Nahuel to embrace courage and basically get over his fears. And I think that's it. Like it, the theme itself is handled pretty well. It's a little basic, but considering like and I'll say this. I think I'm a lot lighter on this film. Like I still get, like I said, 4 out of 5. I still really enjoyed it, and I'll buy the Blu-ray if this ever comes out in the US. I like this movie a lot because it shows what South America can do with animation. Because it seems like, and no offense to the animation community on YouTube, but they kind of paint a very simplistic image of just like, oh, South America just makes those mockbusters that come out every time Disney and Pixar release something. And it's like, listen, that's not true. And that's very dismissive of the actual talent that comes from like places like Brazil and whatnot.
Yeah, every
Because
every every nation is capable of like um even this movie I think is more just an independent feature. So it has a little bit more it has more soul to it than you might expect.
it has, and just because people think that nothing good comes out of there, it's like the whole thing of like, oh well, it's from China, so it's going to look bad, which is not true either. Since we're going to talk about a really good Chinese animated film next, um, is that like I lost my train of thought actually. No, oh now I remember. Sorry. Um, Boy in the World is from Brazil, and it was nominated for a Best Animated Feature Oscar, and it won the Annie's first foreign slash indie feature award show. So shut it. and and like I said, I like the dynamics between the characters. Like I like that the hermit is kind of tough, but when he finally sees Nahuel like kind of break down of just like feeling like he failed, I like that he's just kind of like, hey, you know what? Don't listen to me. And I like the joke when the big dog character saves Nahuel and Fresha from that pig snake thing, and they're like, a talking dog. The dog talked, and then the dog's like, you just encountered a 400-pound monster that was about to kill you. Yet the talking dog is what freaks you out. And basically
Yeah,
saying that.
the dialogue in this movie is it's funny but in a very stealthy fashion.
Yeah, it kind of drops jokes here and there that makes you chuckle. And I liked a lot of the quiet moments with Nahuel and his dad, like when he gets on the boat before, disaster strikes. I like that it's very quiet. It just does that little montage of the father and son fishing, and like it does a lot. I mean, I know it sounds like we're not being very praiseworthy of this film, but I do like some of the aspects. Like I like the grandmother that Fresa is with, and how she just holds her own against the evil sorcerer's henchmen or henchwoman in this case. And like it was just different, like it flips that whole trope of like the elderly older characters useless, but it was just cool to rewatch all this and just and be able to enjoy the characters and like the interactions. Like I love like the two kids are just like, I want to pet the dog. I wonder if he likes being rubbed behind his ears. And the dog's just like, you try that and you'll be missing a hand. Now go back to sleep. But do you have any other comments to make about this film?
Um, just piggybacking off what you said about the character interactions. I know this was intended as a standalone film, but if they ever want to continue continue the adventures of these characters in like a series or maybe just a sequel, I would be totally down for more. Um, like I could see like 100 different adventures with Nahuel, Fresha, and what's the wolf's name? Rowende.
I think so. I forgot.
Yeah, like there's there's a lot to enjoy from um like like the world building, and maybe in future films you could see like Nahuel like mastering like the spells in the Levisterio. There's like there are directions that you can take this in that I think would be really cool.
Yeah, I could see maybe like a sequel or maybe like a TV series because I think that's one thing that holds this film back is that it's fairly simple and but it's like it but it's complex enough to be
It's it
engaging.
it's complex enough in the stuff that matters, like the themes that are like deeply rooted in the story. Something I like about Nahuel's arc is that he has a fear of the sea, which kind of like puts him at a distance between his father. So that gives him like a very clear motivation to overcome his fear. Which I think is nice.
Yeah, yeah. No, overall, this is a really solid movie, and if I assume that maybe like Shout Factory is going to bring this over because they brought over the other Brazilian animated film called Tito and the Birds, which is really good. We'll have to talk about that film sometime. But yeah, yeah. If there's some way you can watch it, I'd recommend it.
I I I'm pretty sure it's going to end up on Netflix at some point. I don't know if that's just international or if it's coming stateside, but however the majority of the audience can see it, you should definitely check it out.
Right, right. So let's move on to our second film. Our I don't think this is our first Chinese animated film we've talked about on this podcast, but it's one of the bigger films from that country. And so we're gonna talk about The Legend of Hei, and it's HEI. We're not just saying hey. So this was a 2D animated film. It's a prequel to a popular webtoon series and it premiered last year at the Contrachamp section of Annecy 2020, and I don't think it won there. I forgot who the winners were of that section, but we got to see a small preview of it. And for one thing, it was well known and noted for its really fluid 2D animation, and
Hmm.
this was a really good movie. I think China is hitting its stride with their animated features now since 2015. And we'll talk about this in a future episode when we talk about New Gods, Neza Reborn, and a few other Chinese animated features. But China has had a bountiful animation scene, and like I said, we'll talk about this at another time. But what did you think about this show? I mean, this film.
Well, first of all, a little bit of a plot synopsis for those who aren't aware. So this follows the cat spirit Lu Xiaohei. His home is deforested by humans, so he must find a new one. So he runs into a group of other spirit creatures who take him under their wing with dreams of reconquering the land they say is rightfully theirs. However, they run into a human known as, well, they call him Infinity in the English dub, who separates Hay from the other spirits, and the two go on a journey with the cat spirit, learning to control his abilities as well as forming his own thoughts on whether or not he should ally with the spirits or the humans. So, one way you can definitely tell how much I love a movie is when I want to see more. And thankfully, because this is a prequel, I can see more. Well, theoretically. I don't know where I can actually watch the series.
I'm sure it was brought over by fans on YouTube or something to watch with
Yeah,
subtitles. And
I'll find it one day and consider this a sight unseen recommendation. But this movie rocks. It's um like for a Chinese film, they do such a good job at like sort of emulating the style of a lot of Japanese animators. Like it really reminds me a lot of like Miyazaki films, but mixed with like some character designs from like Studio Trigger in very subtle ways. Like it's a mix of that plus I see a little bit of Masaki Uesa's influence in there too with the movements and how the plot just kind of gets out there.
Yeah, so one of the things that I remember worrying about when I first learned about this movie was it was in the trailers that you would see, it would introduce a lot of characters. And I have something to say about that when we get to that point. And this was and I was a little worried because there's this Chinese animated film called Big Fish and Begonia, which is also pretty good. I would say Legend of Hei is what Big Fish should have been, but Big Fish would like introduce all of these characters and not in a very subtle way because it's like it was balancing, it was trying to balance out the main characters and then everyone else who were there to either spice up the world building or were actually like super important to the plot, but the storytelling wasn't as good from what I remember watching of it to make that work. But here it's like we do have, it is a story about humans versus nature, and I know everyone likes to roll their eyes at it like, man, another humans versus nature, we got to protect the environment movie. This movie approaches that topic in a very morally gray way.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's like if you're not paying attention, then you don't really know who's the hero and who's the villain. And even if you are paying attention, like they do such a good job of like giving both sides like equal amount of agency. Like um I think their names are like Stormend and Infinity. Both they both see themselves as like as the heroes of their own stories, and they each have motivations that make total sense. Um, and it's even kind of heartbreaking to hear Stormend's side of the story, where his home was just over time taken over by humans, sort of like how like modern cities have like become gentrified over the years. It's kind of like that same approach.
There's a lot of nuance to how you can approach this story about and what the spirits represent. And there's this one line, and I really love it. It's from one of the side characters that Hei meets with Infinity. And they're talking about how Stormend is like, well, he's not a bad spirit, but he's also too violent for his own goods, and he takes things too far. Then Hay is like, well, yeah, but that's because humans are evil. And the guy just like he has kind of like humans are just like spirits. They're not all bad or good, and sometimes it's hard to distinguish the two. That line is great.
Mm-hmm.
And there are little bits and pieces like that, like when Infinity is talking to Hay and he's saying like, so you're gonna take revenge on humanity? Yeah. So you're gonna kill everyone? And Hay's just like, it's like it kind of puts him, it's like, don't like, do you want revenge on the humans? And why do you trust the people that helped you without really knowing what their intentions may be?
It's almost like this movie kind of deconstructs the cliche battle between good and evil. It's like it kind of forces you to ask why are these the good guys and why are they the bad guys? It's like they go to great lengths to to give all like each side each side gets sort of like the benefit of the doubt in some ways.
Yeah, no, like it is very interesting, and sometimes it's like something dramatic ends with happens at the end with Stormend, and he becomes this giant, massive tree. And they're just kind of like, why did he do that? They could have. They're just going to chop him down, and then the same character who says my favorite line, it's like they'll probably turn it into a park and charge admission for it. Like it's kind of it's not I don't think cynical would be the right word. It's a little more realistic because I don't think, like, to me, I don't hate these kind of humans versus nature stories. Princess Mononoke wouldn't be considered one of the greatest animated films of all time if people didn't like the human versus nature debate. And this is what Hey reminds me of, because it's very much like the humans have their pros and cons, but the spirits also have their pros and cons to them. And I just like I know some people in like some topics are just kind of like, well, it's better just to be very black and white about it. But being morally gray is a lot more interesting at points.
It helps you to keep an open mind, um, because like life isn't always black and white, and this movie does a really good job of um, it just does a good job of like of presenting both sides of a very complicated argument.
Yeah, no, and it's like it's just nice that this movie takes time to actually like make that argument because sometimes you'll see films try to make these big sweeping statements and then it's like, okay, what's next? And then it's like, I don't know. I just wanted to say
Now that being said, this movie is wild because um, it somehow balances like between two wildly different tones. Like in the first half, after the first fight with Infinity, and Infinity pulls a Piccolo and kidnaps Hey, like for a good chunk of the film, it's kind of like it's pretty quiet and subdued and almost like the anime version of The Sword in the Stone, where
yeah.
or like Peabody and Sherman, where it's kind of educational, where Infinity is albeit against Hayes' will, teaching him the ways of the spirit.
Yeah, no, I liked Infinity and Hayes dynamic. Well, first of all, this the festival had the English dub for its premiere, and they have a really good dub, and they have like a lot of Chinese American talent, and they have Emmy Lowe, Alex Lay, Howard Wang, Keiji Tang or Tong, Caleb Yin, and Susie Yoon. And if you were you would recognize Alex Lay because he's Kaiman from Doro Hidoro, and
I thought I recognized them.
I assume he's playing Infinity because I think so. They unfortunately the credits during the festival did not have the English dub cast for it for some reason, so I wasn't able to like really pin down who was who. Um, and I like it was just like he was very patient with Hay while Hay was like always trying to get away and then failing and then getting away again and then failing, and he just like he was like he got connected with him in like a father figure kind of way. And like it was just kind of it was just cool to see that because the film is kind of long. It's almost I think like
It's an hour and 41 minutes.
yeah, so it's like it's almost 2 hours long, and a lot of that time it's just spent very quiet montages with some slight comedic elements thrown in with Hay trying to get the upper hand on Infinity, which are all very funny. This movie has a delightful sense of humor, even if it sometimes comes at the expense of just like all the characters being introduced at once sometimes. But it's a very cool master mentor big brother, little brother, father, son kind of thing for me.
Yeah, I like this movie balances a lot of different tones, and a lesser filmmaker would not be able to juggle all of that at once, and yet somehow MTJJ, as he's commonly known as, um he does a really good job of balancing the quieter moments with the more bombastic moments with the action, which is frankly some of the best that I've seen for a non Japanese anime ish production. Like this stuff looks really good.
Yeah, the animation is so good in this film. First off, the designs are kept simple, so they move a lot better than most films, and then like they'll cut out little details here and there, but you still but they never take you out of the experience. Like when you first meet Infinity when he's like capturing a spirit, you can tell from the angle like they don't show his eyes like for a moment, but it's not like a technical goof or like a limitation thing. You still feel the sense of his character, like, oh man, this guy's bad news. Um, and like I have to say, the English dub for this. Well, first of all, before I get to the English dub, but it's like when they're not fighting, it's all very fluid and it has some of the more comedic animation, especially of Hei's facial reactions. But man, when the action hits, it hits hard. It's like Mappa level animation, like or at least Mappa or Studio Trigger level action. And but I never found myself like getting lost within the action, like of like who's fighting who's on what end. Um,
Yeah, that's what I liked about it. Like like the action scenes were fast, but they were clear. Like you know exactly um the like the geography was clear.
yeah, because that's always a thing to be worried about when you are making an action movie. You want the camera to be like far enough away from the people so you can watch the action, but you also need a really good fight choreographer to make sure the action looks good so it's not like floaty, too weighty. It doesn't come off like a dance or if you watch the last Airbender film, everyone's waiting for their cue to do something. And it's just very impressive to see this all done in 2D because while I do like and love 2D animation, there are some very hard hurdles to get through with 2D animation, and that's like very much something that anime is doing very well of getting used to, but also still having to get over because like you can't just swing the camera around like you can in a CGI film. You have to move the camera manually and make sure the proportions and perspectives are still in place, like for whatever you're doing. So to see like that big action sequence on the train or like in the one in the finale, like that, kudos to the team that made sure this was all readable.
I
In
think
one.
that I think the train sequence might be one of my favorites. And a lot of that does have to do with like the way they've like maneuvered the camera. It's it's not easy to pull something like that off in like in 2D animation. And I don't know if this was animated like this had to have been animated digitally.
Right. It was, I think.
Yeah, so that makes it even more impressive.
Yeah, and like and this is always something that you kind of have to worry about with all these designs and such. You still get who these characters are from their designs and again, it's that thing I've been beating the drum on. Good character design helps tell a story in a lot of ways.
And one of the characters even comments on it too. There's a character who is a male, who has this very feminine hairstyle,
Oh,
and
Neza.
yeah,
Yeah, no, Neza makes an appearance. Like a lot of these characters are based on Chinese mythology characters, so you'll see like one the one who controls ice among Storman's team is from like the Neza story origin, and Neza makes an appearance in the later half. And Hei makes like a comment saying like, "You have a very feminine hairstyle," and Neza says like, "I would change it if it wasn't so iconic." And they're like, "What do you mean?" Pulls the two things off, and then everybody's like, "Who are you?" Puts it back on. Oh, okay. And it's a really funny movie too. I adore like how it was able to weave consistently funny comedy throughout the movie because for a lot of times like when I've watched Chinese animated films, they rely on a lot of flatulence humor, like potty humor, and
this had almost none of that.
it was really none. And
Most of the humor comes from like physical comedy. Like anytime Hay tries to escape, and Infinity's like, yeah, nope.
yeah, nope. And some dialogue comedy as well, like when Hay is eating with Storman and his crew. What's his name? Sky Tiger, who only talks in like simple words like meat, and then he's like booze, and then Storman's like, no, not for the kid. And like I like seeing that comedy. Like they found what's going to be more universally funny than like just saying like, oh, let's just do what kids would find funny and then do that. And that's kind of like my problem with like Neza, the 2019 film, but we'll get to that when we get to that. I will say I think well, one thing about the voice cast, I think they put in some great performances because I know like Infinity has this very one note kind of voice. He doesn't really go like higher or lower, but he was still I think Alex Lee, like I said, I think that's who voices him. Was able to bring a little more nuance to that character. Like it was very impressive to me just to hear how good the voice cast was.
Yeah, the voice cast is really good. I wish there was more, and I wish I had more information, like about this movie to because doing research for this, it's almost impossible because it's so bare bones.
Yeah, it's like we kind of have to wait until Legend of Hei gets released in May to find out who's playing who, and that's kind of the unfortunate thing. Now, I will say the one criticism I have for this film is that in the second half, it has the same problem as Big Fish and Begonia, where it just kind of dumps a lot of characters onto you, and a lot of it like you kind of have to go into this film and know encountering these side characters as like the characters who would meet in Princess Mononoke or oh, I had another example earlier. But just like characters that are there just to kind of spice up the world building. Like they don't play too much of an important role in the film, but they're there to just help kind of flesh everything out more in a way. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I knowing that this is a prequel film to a web series, it almost either explains and or justifies like the inclusion of all these characters because if you're like me and you fell in love with this movie, then you're gonna definitely want to go back and check out the web series.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing is because since this web series is not widely available, or at least as far as I can tell, it's not like available in the US market available. So I'm not entirely sure. Like, I don't know. It's that debate of should they have dialed back the characters for the sake of a wider audience appeal? Or like, what do you think there was a better way to introduce these characters so
Uh,
so newcomers who don't know anything about the web series can come in and be like, "Oh, that piques my interest. Like, I want to see if these characters pop up again."
I don't know. See, I'm hard pressed to think of like a better way to introduce them because um, I personally think that there may be a few too many characters introduced all at once. I think the introductions themselves were um, were more than adequate.
I think what saves it is that the story keeps it to mostly Infinity and Hay, like in their dynamics with Stormend, because like this is something that happens with a lot of like fighting game anime. They want to make sure all the characters get in because the fans want to see them in animated forms, but then they do like nothing with them or make them like small cameos, or it's like the story suffers because it's like, oh, but we got to have this character and we got to have that one. Okay, story wise, why?
Yeah,
Uh,
at least here these characters all kind of they all kind of know their place for better for worse.
yeah, so it's like I'm interested in the world building. I just don't know how I'm going to fully be able to watch the web series, but I still want to. So, um, but no, I think this is a good film to like release and then like hopefully drum up some interest in the uh in the web series, and hopefully something like some company or whatever picks it up.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, so like in general for me, this is one of my favorite films of the year so far. I think I have it at number 6. It's right below Bombay Rose. but it's still in like my top 10, and I'm sure it's going to stay in my top 10 for a while, depending on what else gets released this year.
Yeah, I have this. I think at number 7. It's like it's around the same area as like Riot the Last Dragon, Batman Soul the Dragon,
Hmm.
and Calamity. Um, I just the, animation is in a good place so far this year.
Yeah, very good place, and at least it's not making us starve for it like 2020 did. So I think let's move on to our final film, and probably my favorite film from the festival,
Oh
the
my god.
Bears. Yeah, the
Yes.
Bears' famous invasion of Sicily.
So this is based on a 1945 children's book of the same name by Italian author Dino Buzzati. It's directed by Lorenzo Matati, and it's co-written by Matati, Jean-Luc Fromental, and Thomas Bidegain. Um, and it starts with Tonio, the son of the Bears King, being kidnapped by some hunters in the Sicilian mountains because of the harshness of a winter that threatens its clan with famine. The Bear King decides to invade the land of men in the hopes of finding a son. Uh,
Hmm.
Thanks to his powerful army and the help of a wizard, he will succeed at both quests, but he will soon find out that bears are not meant to live in the land of men. Uh, so this movie is kind of it has a delightfully silly premise of an army of bears coming to invade like the human kingdom.
Well, it's funny, like in the film when they're walking through the forest, they're like, "So, how do humans greet one another? Hello, or in the case of like the French dub, bonjour." And it's like humans say bonjour. Okay, well, what about after that? Hey, hello there. I'm a bear, and there's 10,000 of us, and we're very hungry. Um, and there's a delightful framing device with this film that has this entertainer and his assistant going into a cave during a winter storm, and they encounter a very large elderly bear, and they decide to say like, "Hey, if you don't eat us, we'll tell you a story," and then that's how the bear's famous invasion of Sicily starts. And man, like it's tied with Calamity and Raya for my favorite animated film of the year so far.
Yeah,
And
same. What I like about it is it has probably the coolest character designs I've seen. Like
oh my gosh, this art style.
yeah, you can tell that this is very much like the most pure blend of 3D and 2D animation. Because without like the 2D kind of dress up, these bears are just shapes.
Yeah, they're very simplistic shapes, but they're still wildly expressive, and I think that is because of the combination of 2D elements put onto the bodies of the CGI models. And like you know that term "every frame's a painting."
Oh yeah,
That's literally every frame in this movie. That like they worked hard to make every shot memorable, every shot looks good, and just a color palette, the designs, the painted look of everything. This is a part of my French, a damn pretty movie. Like it's probably one of the most technologically impressive feats of animation that I've seen from Europe.
and yet the story was written in the 40s, but like the movie kind of feels like a product of like the 80s or 90s. It has a very classic aesthetic to it, which I really dug.
It's definitely a very fairy tale story approach. So do not go into this wanting logic because you're dealing with a bunch of bears that can walk and talk and have mustaches and canes. um, it's like the King and the Mockingbird. Do not think too hard about the logic or the overall logic of how all this works, or like how the villainous tyrant has like these three small men who are monkeys maybe, but they're not monkeys. um like the three little henchmen.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and or the fact that there's an apparently the human army has a regime of wild boars. like like I just found that so hilarious that like one of their most threatening weapons
Or
are
boars.
are pigs. and and it's just like, but golly, just the look at the humans, and just, man, just the designs. I love the wizards look.
But like
This is
the wizard is like pretty much just like a walking stick with legs.
And I love like the tyrant is delightfully like evil and twisted looking, to be like to show off his monster's personality. And but golly, just all I can't get over just all these. It's not even visual overload. It's like I want to just pause every frame of this film. Like I love like they made sure that every frame and every sequence was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like when the bears roll up the giant snowballs, how they do like a crisscross section, or like they have multiple bears on different slopes, and like the color, like the giant snowballs against the contrast of the red and blue soldiers, which they didn't say that they murdered a bunch of soldiers, but when you're getting crushed by like a 5-story building size snowball, that snow is not going to be soft.
Yeah.
Or like when they encounter the ghost. Oh god, the ghosts in the castle. Like they look so fluid, like really like a paper bag, like, or like a plastic bag going through the ocean. Like just how they moved and how they were grabbed. They're very water like in a way.
Yeah, I picked up on that too. Um, towards the end, slight spoilers, but when one of our characters finally moves on to the other side, like when they're flying in the sky, they have a very it's like they're kind of swimming in the sky. Like the way they animate that is just so fluid, and it's just gorgeous. A lot of this movie is gorgeous.
I know.
Every like
Go ahead.
every little detail is just kind of fascinating. Even like the ripples in the water is something you don't see in every in every other animated film. And
No,
I know I talk about water a lot in animation, but honestly,
no, for good reason.
yeah, like water in animation is sort of like it's sort of the litmus test for how well like a particular style is executed.
Yeah, and then it's like when they encounter that troll who turned into a large cat. Like I just love the design of that, and I do love the fact that like when I do take down a giant cat, all the bears that it ate come flooding out of it. Like nobody dies or something like that, and like it was just kind of a fun, like a quirky little scene to just to see. And then when the bears finally come up to the walls of the human set of Sicily, and it's cut in and it's intertwined within the circus performance.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, that's like I thought that was very cool. But it's like just because we're saying it runs on fairy tale logic doesn't mean it doesn't have substance to its story, because there's definitely a lot of commentary to be had here. There's like the dynamic between a father and son, which becomes a lot more prevalent in the second half of the story. And you get a little bit of an Animal Farm thing going on with one of the bears, who turns out to be kind of a villain later on because he's taken all the vices of man per se.
In hindsight, we should have seen that coming because he's one of the only bears with like a goatee.
Yeah. And yeah, I kind of expected it, because it's like that's a villainous goatee right there. and and I like that it talks about it's like it wants to talk about this kind of stuff. Like it's obviously very anti-war, and it deals with like I love the sequence with the king talking to a ghost. And it just, man, it's like this movie is like whimsical, but grounded enough to where it doesn't become an overly style over substance situation.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of substance sort of buried in the style. You know, you mentioned it's anti-war, but it can also be to some extent colonialism.
Yeah, I can see that. Now,
Um,
like after when the king of the bears gets his son back, the bears decide to live with the humans, and yeah, yeah, you can expect what happens there. Um, and I have to say, just one of my favorite scenes is when the young uh dancer girl, I guess I forgot what exactly she was. She wasn't really a princess, but she was a friend to the prince. And when she's like blindfolded and then she accidentally uh interacts with the king. I just love the king sitting there by himself. Like it just, oh my gosh, the visuals. And I know this kind of sucks talking about visuals on a podcast because it's like you can't see it. But like just look up images of this film and you'll understand why we're just frothing at the mouth to talk about this film's visual style.
yeah, because the visual style is I don't want to say it's like nothing I've ever seen, but I'm hard pressed to find anything that looks this distinct.
I feel like I remember seeing one French animated film a while back that kind of looked like this, but not to this degree. I think it was like a Pinocchio film,
Hmm.
but I'm not. But don't quote me on that. I'm not entirely sure. And I liked a lot of the acting in the film. I loved, like I said, I loved the interactions between the father and son, and um,
And even the dynamic between the like the two humans telling the story to the old bear.
Yeah. And no, it's very delightful and just how it approaches its character dynamics. And I man, it's just I could go on for a while about this, but I know it's kind of late from when we are recording this. I don't really have any issues. I know some people kind of complain that the two stories feel jarring, but I was not bothered too much about by the story. I thought it was pretty interesting that like the humans have their side of the story, but then the elderly giant bear has like there's a sequel to this story, and this is what happened. And then it's like it's role reversal. Now, without spoiling anything, what did you think about the ending? Because the entertainers like after the bear tells the sequel to their story, they're like, what happens? And they let's just say they keep it open ended. Like, what do
It
you think about that?
um I think it's kind of interesting. I'm not sure why they had to be so vague about it. But I do have a sneaking suspicion that the old bear
Was like
is
someone we've seen before.
yeah, I'm pretty sure the old bear is Tanyo. And he's sort of telling his own story. But I love how the takeaway from the story is, well, how are we going to tell the story to other people if it doesn't have an ending?
No. Well, he said, "Tell let old stories lie and rest." But man, like, gee, kids, if you hear this and what have you, please bring this film over. Someone bring this movie over. Like, what we need to see this film. Like, more people need to see this movie. I think it would be a huge hit if it had the right backing to it.
I agree 100%. Although the voice cast, there's an English voice cast on Wikipedia.
Oh, I don't trust that thing like with an inch.
Yeah,
So
it's not one bit. Like for example,
Cameron
Babon,
Diaz.
like Babon is voiced by Michael Cera. That makes no sense.
No,
Um,
and well, and that Wikipedia entry also has like a U.S. release of May 2020, and it's like, oh, I don't believe that. I
yeah.
fell for that with, I fell for that with Her Blue Sky, and that we still haven't gotten that film in the U.S. So
So Wikipedia sucks, but this movie doesn't.
yeah, no, I mean, I would honestly be fine with this film not getting an English dub if it did get brought over.
we just need this film to get a release period so people can see it.
Yeah, no, we just bring it over to. I don't care if it's going to be eligible or not for awards or whatever. I just want people to see this. Just bring it over. I'll even go for like a Netflix release, or and maybe Netflix can get a Criterion release for this film or something. That would be pretty stellar. But but man, I'm kind of struggling right now. I think this is my favorite animated film of the year so far. It's kind of struggling. Like the thing with it tying with Raya and the Last Dragon and Calamity is that they're just so distinct in
Yeah,
stories.
that's the thing. Each one of them has something that the other doesn't. Like Raya, of those three, Raya is the pristine Disney 3D animation, but Calamity has a very has like that director's distinct distinct
Visual.
art style, and but tells a very American story despite being in French.
Yeah.
And this is like the it's a fairy tale, it's a fable. So they each have their own distinct flavor, yet I think all three are top shelf.
Yeah. So just like I would say like yeah, go watch this movie. If you can, try to. I just hope that the fact that this animation studio that made the Bears famous invasion did not got shut down is not why it's having a hard time getting released because it's stuck in some legal limbo.
Oh, that would be terrible.
That well, first of all, I feel bad for that studio shutting down because they also worked on like the Red Turtle and Zarafa, and they're visually stunning movies. And like the Red Turtle was nominated for Best Animated Feature, but lost to Zootopia. Um, so I like and like I don't want to say like oh let's do a petition because I just don't really believe in petitions. But if that like or like a Kickstarter or something, I don't know. Just bring it over.
Yeah,
so
that's
so yeah, as you can tell, we love this movie and we want it brought over now. So
um. Well, that brings us to some recommendations. For one of them, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the 20th anniversary of Shrek, which, can you believe it? It's been 20 years since that first movie came out.
that's insane that it's been 20 years since that movie. It's I mean, like I know a lot of people now know about the movie because of dumb memes and whatnot, but it's easy to forget how important that film is to the animation scene. And whether you think it ages well or not, it was the first film to win the Best Animated Feature Oscar. So it's a very important movie. And no matter how bad the franchise got,
We'll
like
always
you
have Shrek 2.
well, yeah, Shrek 2 is always the best one. So, what's your recommendation with via Shrek? Is it just like just the whole franchise, or just like one movie in particular?
I think if you've never seen if you only know of this franchise through memes, then go back and watch the first movie just so you can experience animation history. But then watch Shrek 2 because it's one of the greatest animated comedies of all time.
Yeah, it's like as important as Shrek 1 is, Shrek 2 is just a better movie. And it still is the best movie of the franchise. If you liked the third or fourth one, perfect. Go and keep liking it. I just can't find like I just can't be convinced that someone will say the third or fourth film are better. I just sorry, no. So my recommendation, since we're going to be talking about some Chinese animation in the future in April, I'd recommend. Well, I have a few recommendations. One, it's on Netflix right now. Watch Neza. It's the 2019 film. It's the one that broke box office records, became the highest grossing Chinese animated film in 2019, and basically was the film that reignited the animation boom more so than like the Monkey King Hero is Back. Now, I want to recommend a short that I saw within the festival because it's the one that was connected to Legend of Hei. It's called Kolza. It's on YouTube. It's the YouTube channel the Gobelins, which is I think is an animation art school. So it's kind of like the Cal Arts kind of thing, and they make all these cool short films with like students and whatnot. And Kolza is this cool little 5-minute short about like the description says a young lizard named Clarence steals a precious plane while the whole village is distracted by the greatest concert it has ever seen. It's this cool little world where they use mute like trumpet noise to make these flowers bloom that they harvest, and it has some great animation. And I love the designs, and I love the characters, and it's like the one short that I would actually like to see turned into a feature film.
Yeah,
It
I was gonna say like for a 5 minute short, there's a like they pack a lot of story in that.
Yeah, no, it's really charming too, and it just shows how powerful shorts can be. I know we don't really talk about them on here unless they're like the Looney Tunes stuff.
The other two shorts that were attached to the Bears' famous invasion and Nahuel, I can't remember the names of them, but like those are two other examples of really good like style like really distinct styles. One of them, the one that was attached to Nahuel, was like this really cool stop motion short,
Yeah, that one was really good.
and then the other one was a like a 2D animated short that was basically like it was basically like if you're a cat owner, then you can relate to this one.
Yeah, no, that one was also very solid. And I didn't get to check out a lot of the other shorts, but if you can by the way, can we find a way to get the Moomin Valley show an official US release? Because for some reason that show was able to get Rosamund Pike, Matt Berry, and Taron Egerton for the first for and Taron Egerton is only in the first 2 seasons, but and like Warwick Davis and whatnot to have this huge British cast, and yet there's no real way to watch it in the US without using illicit means. So I am so bummed out about that. So
I know when I heard this, I'm like, wait, that cast is awesome. How come we don't get this?
yeah, unfortunately, the Moomins are not a super popular franchise here in the States, and that is unfortunate. So hopefully they can. But that's it for my recommendations.
All right. Well, yeah, this was another great episode in the can. Just a little preview for what's coming up next. I really do want to talk about Bombay Rose, because that's a movie I've been dying to see for a while, and also, well, by the time this episode is published, the series finale for DuckTales will have already aired, and we're gonna need to talk about season 3 eventually.
No, we're going to be catching up on some things. We'll be talking about like Pacific Rim, The Black, and we'll finally be able to talk about Camp Coral and Sponge on the Run. We will finally put that thing to rest. So
Yeah, we're ending our war with the sponge
for now.
for now. But until then, Cameron, where can everyone find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at Cam's Eye View. I also run my own website called camseyeview.biz, where I review animated films from overseas and in the US called The Other Side of Animation. I also have a Patreon at patreon.com/camseyeview, where if you like my work, you can support me there. And I'm in the Renegade Pop Culture Facebook group where I'll post some animation related stuff from time to time if you would like to join. So, that's where you can find me.
And you guys can find me on Twitter at Captain K42. You can check out all my quick thought reviews on letterbox.com/Coach K42. Find me in all the various Facebook groups just at my name. You can check out Renegade Pop Culture on Facebook and Twitter at Ren Pop Culture. You can find all our podcasts on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. We recently set up a coffee account if you want to throw us a little support. And last but not least, check out renegadepopculture.com. Need an escape? So do we. That'll do it for this episode of Renegade Animation. We will catch you guys later. Peace out.
Bye.